Welcome back to the Warrior Path. Um, been a while. It's a running series of techniques and skills for self-assertion and self-creation. I've called it self-mastery before. It is self-mastery, but I hear a lot about self-mastery, so it's actually more than that. And that's because the Warrior Path itself is a lifestyle, or at least a set of choices within your lifestyle, which, if you're living it, it will continue to unfold and reveal itself to you. Um, this is a thing that is fluid, it is changing. Just kind of reminding, again, it's been like, I think, months since I've done one. So that's because life. The first 8 episodes of the Warrior Path are individual chapters from my presentation called Adapting the Warrior Mindset for Everyday Life. Okay? Now, since then, my whole understanding has grown exponentially because that's how it goes when you're living this way. And my own successes and failures in the Warrior Path have made me present this in a whole different way. So this is why I find myself like redefining in the intros of these videos what I'm actually talking about. And so before I even get into the section of that is the subject for this video, it's a fundamental idea to understand, I think is crucial, and that is human experience itself. It comes down to what? It's an interplay between two forces. So when we talk about development and maturity, right, we're talking about growth, we're talking about evolutions. It's not just the Warrior Path. There are actually two schools that you have to graduate from. One is your work towards self-acceptance. Okay, this applies to everybody. This is not just my view of things. This is just how it is. So the work towards self-acceptance people have called shadow work. That's a Carl Jungian term, right? It's the psychology of Carl Jung. Now, the problem with the shadow work name is a bit of a tangent, and it starts a whole conversation that is not always applicable to this. So if you want to learn about shadow work, I refer you to Michael Tsarion for that, and that's the explanation of shadow work that I think is best. And if I could sum it up in one sentence, it's shadow work is looking at yourself and ending the sadism and cruelty to the self. Okay, and this is what I call the work towards self-acceptance. It's like non-aggression against yourself. I talk about, there are two pillars to natural law. Natural law is non-aggression and it's self-defense. So these are the two schools that you have to graduate from. One is the non-aggression school, which is defined by, which I would say is shadow work, learning not to damage yourself, not to hurt yourself. And two is self-defense against yourself. In other words, it's the work towards self-assertion and self-creation. And that's what the Warrior Path is. The Warrior Path is just my personal perspective and lifestyle and set of techniques to do that self-defense work. So again, it's crucial to remember this is not all you need to do. You also need to do the non-aggression work. You also need to be good to yourself. You also need to work on accepting yourself. So I think a lot of that talk about self-mastery totally bypasses that first one, that self-acceptance work. It's not just productivity. It's not just mastery, okay? It's also, I don't use this word a lot, but it's mercy. Mercy, majesty, a lot of those words apply, those Kabbalistic words. We're talking about mastering your thoughts, emotions, and actions. How to be resilient, how to be consistent, how to exercise your will, how to get pushed around. That's what the Warrior Path is. It's how to deal with injustice and abuse and conquering it. All of these things are like external projections, right? It's like we're fighting against something. It's fortifying the self so that you are satisfactory in your own eyes, like that you can look in the mirror and you like who you are, and making yourself confident enough to face the world and then make it a better place. But remember, this is only one of the two processes which should both be occurring in your life. Shadow work should not be neglected, and that means learning to accept and enjoy who you are, embracing your imperfections, working on the courage to be happy, and certainly acknowledging everything you are not, but then letting go of everything you are not and will never be, and that's okay. And if you want to know more about that, then I refer you to this video that I'm about to record this week called Mourning Your Fantasy. But as far as the warrior path is concerned, though, we are now on the second to last of the chapters of my original presentation. So there are 7 steps. This is step 6. But episode 1 was an introduction, so that's why this is episode 7. And then episode 8 will be the last. Okay, and episode 9 will tie it all together and then actually explain the structure behind it, which I'll kind of explain in this episode. The structure of that whole presentation I've only foreshadowed and alluded to, but I want to bring it all together. And then when I do episode 10, it's going to be the running, continuing portion of this series where I can start to talk about some of the things that I've learned in the past 2 years, right? The theme of this one is anger. Anger is truly the lost emotion. I've said this before. It's kind of off-putting, but most of my actions are motivated by anger. That's when I do the best work. It's anger motivated. I owe a lot to that emotion for me, and I very much like that emotion. Okay, but again, this is why we need to do this episode, because anger has been totally lost and replaced with this deformed vision of itself. And the analogy I thought of yesterday when thinking about this is imagine if everything that tasted sweet and any kind of sensation of sweetness, it was sweet because of added white sugar. Obviously, added white sugar is unhealthy, so then people would think that anything sweet is unhealthy because of the white sugar. That's what makes things sweet, right? Of course, you would forget about all the natural sweetness about, honey, about fruit, about plants. That's what has happened to anger. We have all sorts of frivolous anger, like road rage, domestic, arguments, all kinds of anger about things that have no meaning or bearing on the world. And we've actually, because of that, forgotten the true passion and purpose behind anger. You guys know I like etymology. I think it's very important to break the words down. So here are a few words that are very similar to anger, and then we'll break down anger itself. The word angel and the word anger are very close. The angel comes from the Greek angelos, meaning messenger. Another word is anchor. An anchor secures something. It holds something down, right? An anchor is like refusal to be uprooted. You're gonna anchor down and sit there. That's what anger is. I'll talk about all this now. I just want to throw these words at you at the start. Anchor is from the ancient Indo-European language, the root meaning to bend something, or to narrow it, or to compress it, like a hook. That's why anchor became that word. It's like when you bend something and make it a hook, that's how you can anchor something. I'll explain it when I'm done with this. Also, the word engine. The word engine comes from the Latin ingenium, meaning innate qualities, innate abilities. It literally means in gene. In gene means inborn. Gene means to originate, birth in Latin. So angel, anchor, and engine, they're all related. If you put it all together, what anger really is a remembrance of one's inner constitution. It's like remembering what you're made of, right? That is your messenger part. And then it's that stubborn resistance against being yanked around, moved around, changed, and pulled. That's the anchoring. And again, engine not only is your fuel, it's also your center. It's where all your energy comes from. Energy is another word, right? Anger and energy. I didn't even realize that. Even if you spell the word backwards, if you spell anger backwards, you get regna. Oregna is actually a word that means rain. A regnum is a rain, like you're reigning over something, or it's a badge of royalty, like an actual object. Now, what is royalty? Royalty is the sense that by birth, one has a high value for whatever reason. That's what anger is. Anger is a remembrance that we're royalty. Not royalty, over ruling over somebody, but we absolutely are royalty due to the fact that we are born with a gift, and we are born with free will in this world. And when something makes us angry, we're just remembering that injustice. Like, we're better than this. Fuck what's going on right now. I don't need this. That's the purpose of anger. It's a reminder that we're actually royalty, that we have value. Now, the word anger itself, the an means without, right? Anarchy means anarchos, without rulers, right? And means without. It also means that. So what that is the deep, the primordial cosmic womb, right? We're talking about ancient concepts of it now. An anchor sits in the deep, right? Ankor, right? It's rooted in the ocean. It's the cosmic womb, and this is why the Egyptians, they had the Ankh, Ankh. It's the Egyptian symbol for life, and that's the symbol that represented birth. Why does it represent birth? Why is the Ankh the symbol that it is? It's like a cross with a rounded top, because the top is the cosmic egg, the cosmic womb, and then the cross it is the being coming from it, right? It's a junction of a 1 and a 0, right? It's like the roundness of the feminine primordial energy and the straight energy of the male. That's why the Ankh is the Ankh, and it represents life. That's the An, okay? Then you have G. G is means generated. G is for generation, right? Jane means birth, again. So G is to create something. Also the 7th letter, which of course you have the 7 days of creation, and 7 has always, stood for completion, but completion in a sense that not something is over, but something is over and is about to start and create something new. So you have AN, G, and on the other side of the G, you have ER. ER is always action, like a doer. Anything ER, when you add it at the end of a word in English, it's someone that does that action. Now, of course, I'm talking English, but these letters, it would apply to different languages. That etymology would be different in different languages. It does not make it any less true. In fact, I would say that there's a reason why you're getting this information in English, right? But that's kind of a whole nother story. So when you put it together, ER means express reference, G means generated, AN is active notion, but really there's a reason why AN always means without. It's the beginning of something. It's before. Like antebellum means before war, right? Ante something, your anterior, as opposed to your posterior. You put it all together, anger means before, generating action. And again, this is the same thing as what an engine is. Anger is your ultimate motivator. But that doesn't mean we should feel it often. I'm not saying we should be angry a lot. When things are going well, we do not and should not feel it. But it is our secret weapon. It's a sacred gift of human beings, and anger activates when things are not okay. Now, I've alluded to the all-important nuance, right? There are 2 different kinds of anger, so I'm going to explain it in detail now. It's been called the red and the blue flame. It's a good way to describe it because a blue flame is it's hotter than the red flame, actually. The blue flame, it signifies complete combustion where there are little to no waste products, but in contrast, a red flame indicates incomplete combustion, which can produce toxic gases like carbon monoxide. And anger is a lot like that. That metaphor works. There are 2 kinds of anger. Okay. Let's start with weak anger. Okay, so these are tarot cards. If you know, people may be like, why are you using tarot cards? Like, what does this have to do with it? And actually, this is the first time I show it. This is related to my structure of this whole Warrior Path series. Um, um, yeah, so I'll expand on this in episode 9. But the point is, you've got a card here that it corresponds to. The position that anger corresponds to is on this third level. This would be on the solar plexus level, on the left hand side, because you have the left hand path and the right hand path. The left hand path being the path of severity, and the right hand path being the path of mercy. I'm realizing there's not going to be an easy way for me to explain this, but I'll just talk about the imagery of the card and why it represents what it does. With the moon, you see the animals, they're barking at the moon. This is actually very chaotic. And this is that red flame anger. This is this kind of frivolous anger, okay? This is what happens when you blow up on somebody. And this is kind of like your defensive reaction to being hurt or offended. It's very explosive, okay? So it's an explosion. And then after the explosion, it goes away very quickly. It's like a Molotov cocktail. Right, it blows up, there's a lot of energy, and then it's gone quickly. Very often you regret it shortly after, like road rage or something. Like, it's like a temper tantrum. This is this kind of anger. And often you feel very drained. It drains the energy of the host. It's almost like a spirit being channeled. That's why I find it interesting that these are animals. There are not very many animals in the tarot. Interestingly, both of them are at this level that I will show the other card as well. But it's very animalistic. It's immediately reactionary. I would say it's even infantile. This is that type of a weak anger, and this is absolutely not the anger that I'm talking about. But, that's part of it too. We feel that sometimes, and it's okay. The anger I'm talking about being so crucial for the warrior path is this kind of anger, strong anger. Actually, the word is strength, as you see on this card. So the word is strength, and you see a lion, but you see this is a very peaceful card. It's the complete opposite of the moon card. And by the way, this correspondence where you see those cards laid out by that, I didn't come up with that. This is the way Mark Passio laid it out. I don't know what occult tradition or he got that from, but as far as giving credit where credit is due, this is his slide, right? I absolutely hold to this, and I see that the correspondence here. And it does correspond with the Kabbalah, of course. The tree you're seeing is the Kabbalistic tree of life. It is what it is. Again, I'm not saying that is crucial and indispensable for the warrior path, but the way I laid it out is like this, and this helped me make sense of it. Now, strong anger has been called righteous indignation. I, don't like that too much because anger is anger, and I don't need a big euphemism for it, right? There's no need to justify it by making it seem less aggressive than it is. It is aggressive, and that's okay, because we're being angered by injustice. There's good cause for this aggression, okay? It's really an intellectual response to injustice, but when the injustice we're talking about is child abuse and animal abuse and a lot of this stuff that is happening on a world scale, the response should be absolutely vicious. But just like a lion is vicious and can totally tear you apart, it's not controlling you like that dog barking at the moon. You're controlling it, as you see by this woman who is petting the lion, and then you see the lion has his tongue out. He's not a threat to her, okay? It's a very peaceful card. And I love this concept of strength here, because strength is not, smashing your fists together. It is actually self-control. But, what you're controlling is you're controlling something that is very dangerous when stoked up and released. But control and discernment is the key to anger. This kind of anger, it is the blue flame. It could be felt, it could be used, it could be explosive, but it could also be put back in the bottle, and it could be set aside by the person carrying it. It's like much more so of a slow burn, and not just you know an inflammation, an explosion. It's a slow burn with the potential to become a wildfire. This is something like increasing pressure. You have something that's bubbling under the surface and bubbling, and then yes, it does reach a breaking point, and that is the point of an anger outburst. When necessary, we will need to become explosive like that red flame. But until then, there should be a steady blue flame under the surface, because not only the things that are happening in the world that the warrior needs to solve, like abuse, injustice, slavery, but also within yourself, being pushed around in your personal life, right? Things are happening to you that are just wrong, people taking advantage of you. Not just an explosion. You should be feeling a blue flame that gives you a little tap once in a while, and that tap is absolutely good. You should listen to it, because anger is your friend. I call it self-respect's voice. It really is like the voice of self-respect. And when you work on yourself, and the key is really to not lash out at the people closest to you, but I would say lean into this emotion. This emotion is beautiful. It's a gift. And when you do lean into it, I think it'll make you a much more peaceful person. I know it has for me. I used to be very irritable. Somebody calls me while I'm watching the football game. I'm going to start getting really impatient. I'm still very impatient. But because I've leaned into this anger, and I've learned how to use it in a way that doesn't blow up on people who have nothing to do with the source of my anger, I've learned to do that, and it's made me a lot more peaceful. I especially think this is crucial for younger people, that are, or even if you've already started a family. But the point is, you especially got to watch anger and how it surfaces around children, because it's really important not to blow up on people who are innocent. Is the point. Not to blow up on children, animals, your loved ones. You absolutely need to shield them from your anger. But this is why you should say you're angry, and say why you're angry. And it's good to say that, and to not let it just be stifled until it explodes. Let it out a little bit. It's okay to tell someone you're angry and actually make a little bit. It's okay to take it lightly, because, people are okay if you tell them you're angry and why. The reason it all goes wrong is because people don't say it, people don't talk about it, they keep it bottled up. And then they cannot control the explosion. I'm all for some controlled explosions. And remember, though, we need to remember what it is that's actually making us angry. It's probably not the guy that cut you off on the highway. Remember who created the conditions for you to be so angry. These are our real enemies. And remember, though, at the same time, we cannot even blame the people who are doing all this abuse and injustice in the world. We have to blame ourselves for allowing the abuse and injustice to happen, starting from ourselves. So again, anger is good. Use it. I think what should really make you angry is all the things you do to yourself that are not helping you. But at the same time, it cannot become self-punishing, right? We don't need to be punishing ourselves. We should be angry at ourselves for punishing ourselves, if anything. So, again, thank you, and I'll see you in the finale of the Warrior Mindset presentation, and then we'll keep going with the Warrior Path. Thanks so much.